Hi everyone, it's Deneen here and I am in Photoshop Elements. Every once in a while, someone will message me or leave me a comment and uh, ask about how I do something in Photoshop or Silhouette when I don't include that part in my videos. Sometimes I just take for granted that people know how to do things. And also, I don't have the best ways always to do things. I do them the way I do them, and there are always multiple ways to do things. But I did want to just share quick how I'm going to cut out some pictures to fit inside of these rectangles on my silhouette. So this is how I do it. Again, like I said, if you have your own way, that's fantastic. We do what works best for us. But in case there is somebody out there who doesn't know anything at all, perhaps the way that I do it might be helpful. Okay, so this particular piece right here I created for Ali Edwards on her blog. So you can go ahead and check out my blog post in December Daily. I think if you put my name in the search on the blog, it will come up. But this particular one I already modified. So I'm not going to go through that process, but I am going to show you how I am going to make the shapes to cut out photos in this particular shape here, this white rectangle. Okay, so with that layer selected, I am going to use the tool right here. This is the Magic Wand tool. And I am going to click inside of the white. And that is going to put the marching ants around the outside. And then I will do layer via copy for that one. Now, my assumption is that all of these are the same, but I don't know if that's a true assumption. So I'm going to go back down to layer 3, and I am going to do the same thing here. And then I'm going to do layer via copy, back down to layer 3, here, and layer via copy. So I now have 3 copies of just the inner portion. So let's hide this other stuff. You can see them right there, but I want to cut them out on Silhouette, so they can't be white because the Silhouette will not detect that when I go to trace. So I'm going to select each layer and I'm going to fill each layer with black. So just like that, each layer, edit, fill layer, and black. And then the last one, edit, fill layer, and then black. So they are all now black and they will be traceable in my silhouette. So what I want to do is I want to flatten this because I don't need any of these other layers. So I'm going to go to layer, flatten image. It'll ask me if I want to discard the hidden layers. I'm going to say okay. Then I'm going to do a file and I'm going to save as a PNG. And I'll just save it to my desktop. Again, it already has a name that I used for my previous blog post on the Ali Edwards blog, but I'm going to put it to my desktop and I will save it as a PNG and save. Okay, so now that is exactly how I want it to be. So I'm going to go over here into Silhouette and I'm going to do an open and I am going to select that particular file. And there they are right there, exactly how I wanted them. And then I'm going to go over here to the trace panel, select trace area, and I will select all of these. They will turn yellow and then I will trace. I don't need this part here, so I'm going to delete that. And all I have now are the outlines. The other thing that I often like to do, because if you see, they're all connected together. So I will go ahead. I don't know if I need to select these or not. I'm not really sure. But make sure this is selected. And I'm going to go over here to modify. And I am going to go to release. And that is going to release these shapes into individual parts. So there's 1. There's 2, and there's 3. Okay, so I'm going to begin with the top one. And again, like I said, I am assuming that these are all the same, but I just did it this way so that I can be sure that when I put them in the spots that I want them, that they will work and fit the way I want them to. All right, so now I want to open an image. So let's see here. Let's open an image. I was working on some screenshots this morning, so Let's open up one of the screenshots. And this is just a screenshot of the YouTube channel that I work on, the YouTube channel that you are watching this on now. And I am going to take this, I'm going to go to edit, copy, and then over to the screen, I'm sorry, over to the stamp here, and then edit, paste. And of course, it's going to be very, very large. Okay, so I need to resize this. But the first thing I want to do is to take it and arrange it to the back. And now I can see, I'm going to zoom in because I can't see very well, which means you probably can't either. So let's scroll down here and you'll see that it's very large. And I don't want it that large. So I am going to resize this. So that's just dragging the edges and resizing. Let's see here. Drag this edge down here and resizing. Trying to keep it within the constraints of that box, right? So I don't want anything sticking out. I do realize that this will be cut off. I'm perfectly okay with that. That does not bother me at all. All right, so now the key is to select this outline, okay? So this is the cut part. I want that to be selected, and I'm going to copy that. So I'm going to go Edit, Copy. All right, so it is copied. I'm going to save it there for just a moment, and I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to also select the photo. So I have both things selected. I have the cut outline and I have the photo. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit crop. And that is going to crop the photo into that shape. But the cut line has disappeared, and that is the reason why I copied it. So now I'm going to go to Edit and Paste in front, and now I have my cut line back, okay? And I am going to do that 3 times. So I will do that same exact process for 3 of these shapes with 2 additional photos. But I don't need to show you that again because I showed you once and you can replay that over and over again. While I'm doing this though, because this is a print and cut feature, I need to make sure that my setup allows for that. So let's go over here and turn the registration marks on, okay? And print bleed. I do that just to make sure that everything fits inside. You could change this number. That's going to be a personal preference. I can't really tell you what to put it on because it really does change. Sometimes I put it on a certain number and I think it's going to work and then it doesn't. So I think that's more of a trial and error thing. All right, so now as you can see, all of my things are not quite where they need to be. So I'm going to do an edit. I'm going to do a select all, and then I'm going to drag this within the bounds of the print as well as the cut. And if you put on your print border, you can see it will print, and then the cut border is in red. All righty. Let's see what else. I think that's probably about it. You can do a file and a print first, which is what you're going to put into your silhouette. So that is going to bring up my print. Again, the cut lines will not be on this at all. You will go ahead and you will print this out on your printer. Again, for photo paper, depending on what photo paper you use, your print settings are going to be different for however your printer is set up and however you choose to use your photo paper. I will cancel and pretend that I printed, but I didn't. And then I'm going to go to send. And when I click to send, after I have printed my photos, I will place the piece of photo paper into the Silhouette machine. And then I am going to cut. Now for photo paper for me, and again, also I think this might be different for a lot of people, I choose cardstock textured. And then I go down here and I change this, let's see, come on, to a 5. I put my force at 33 and I do 2 passes. That again is something that may be different for you, depending on the photo paper that you use, which could be a thicker paper, which could be a thinner paper. I guess that's all going to depend. At this point, I will place the photo paper with the printed photos on there. It will follow the registration marks, and it will print out, or it will cut out my photos with this particular border around it. Alrighty, so that is it for what I'm doing on the computer. I hope this helped somebody. Again, I always try to remember to add these little on the computer parts, but sometimes I forget. So a little reminder is always appreciated. If you have any questions about this, you totally can leave me a comment below. Alrighty guys, so I am here back at my desk, and this is the foundation page that I made for the Ali Edwards Design Inc. blog back in November. Actually, I think it might have been September. It was pretty early, but you can go ahead and check that out. You can just look up Deneen on the blog, and it'll probably pop up for you. When I did it, I put some tags and stuff inside just to show everybody what it would look like. I also intended to only have my journey with the Ali Edwards brand over 2024. But then I decided that I was just going to kind of include everything. So I'm going to do something with that AED down there at the bottom. Haven't quite figured it out yet, but I am. And then I'll add a number 5 there because this is story 5, and I'm going to fill this up. So let's get started with some stamping. Again, these were created, and you can see how I modified this particular digital design over on Ali's blog, but I am using the letter stamps from this year in order to stamp on here about the different stories that I'm telling. And so this first top story is about Instagram. I am well aware of the fact that it went off the box. I knew that was going to happen, and I don't care. It just doesn't bother me. There's something about stamping that just makes me happy, and I just think stamping should be a little messy, a little sloppy, and I just think it just adds an element of what's the word I'm looking for? Of something being homemade, right? Of something being creative, and it's okay if it's not perfect. I like the imperfection. So top one, Instagram, middle one, Etsy, and then the bottom one is going to be YouTube. So again, telling just a little blurb of some stories about these particular socials during 2024. Okay. Love this stamp set. Love just the eclectic group of letters. I just think it's super fun, and I could not wait to use it. So this was awesome. And once I get done with that, I'll pull out the other one, which these are going to go back to back. And here are the photos that I showed you that I cut out in silhouette, and they fit perfectly in there. Love it. Makes me happy. So this needs to be adhered. These two need to be adhered back to back. And then I'll pull out the original tag. You could see the colors on that one are so faded. The only reason was because I printed it in a like a draft mode because I knew I wasn't really going to use it. But I used that one to cut this into a tag shape and then add my ribbon. And that is the first piece that's going in the pocket. There are 2 of these in the video when I originally did this on the blog. I only had 1, but I am going to do some additional stamping in this half circle down here. It's just screaming to be filled with something, and I thought stamping would be perfect. So the one on the left that I'm doing now is a little bit of story about working with the Ali Edwards brand. And then the one that I'm doing now on the right is about my story and big picture classes. So I had to add both of them in. And I think that this is one of the reasons why I wanted to expand expand what I was putting in this pocket and what I was telling in this story. It really was a very creative year for me, and I wanted to get that down. So again, these are going back to back with some photos and just putting them back to back and clipping them into a tag shape and marking a dot to make my holes. And then I will go ahead and I will just add some ribbon to the tops of both of these. I pulled the ribbon off of the original one that I did for the mock-up, and then I added a green one to this one. So that is that. This one is going to be single-sided. And I don't know, it doesn't have to be double-sided. There wasn't enough room for a hole, so I used this punch tool to make a long, thin opening. And then I threaded some thicker ribbon in there. And I think I just end up stapling this because it was so thick and I didn't want to ruin that slot that I punched. So again, just a staple. Moving on, this one's a little more complicated, so I will slow this down. I do have those two pieces that I'm using. This is one of Allie's papers this year. I am slicing it down longwise to 7.5 inches. Okay, now I am going to end up folding this. So I'm going to measure. It's a little bit less than 11. So what I end up doing is, because I want it to be folded directly in half, it ends up not working out anyway, but the width of this really is irrelevant. But I do mark the middle, and then I get out my scoreboard and I score it in the middle, which for all intents and purposes, it would be at 5.5. And then I scored it an inch above and an inch below. Okay, so in the middle, 1 inch above the middle and 1 inch below the middle. And then I am going to go ahead and fold this. So it's going to end up having 3 creases in it. And I'm being careful because it's a little bit of a thicker paper and I don't want to make any, I don't want to ruin it by, getting my crease off and crumbling crumbling it or anything like that. So I'm kind of going slow. This is where I realize that it's not lining up absolutely perfectly. So I go ahead and I end up trimming some of that off. Again, once this is folded together, the width doesn't really matter, but I'm just trying to make it perfect, which is what I do. All right, so you're going to fold these all and you want the middle standing up. So score it nice, score it crisp, because you want it to stay closed, which it won't, but I'll show you what I'll do in a second. I do a little additional trimming here off the edge just to get them to line up. And now you'll see that this has a kind of a pointy part in the middle. There's a mountain. There's a mountain between the two sides. And before I do anything with that mountain, I'm going to add some of these photos in there. Trying to think what size these photos are. Probably we'll have to measure, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they are 3.25 inches tall by 4 inches wide. If you do decide to do something like this, just measure your sides, right? Measure each side on, each flap on the sides of the mountain, and just make sure that you're printing photos that you want to fit in that correctly. I'm just lining them up with my right angle ruler here because I want them to be in line with each other and I want them to be straight. So these are 4 photos of things that I did for preparation for December Daily, and that's how it's going to fold. And now I'm going to go ahead and get another piece of white cardstock, and I'm going to cut out 3 2.5-inch squares, because remember, this is 7 inches tall and 2.5, 2.5, and 2.5. No, I'm sorry. This is 7.5 inches tall. 2.5 times 3 is 7.5. Okay, so I'm going to adhere these to the mountain. They are going to go on different sides of the mountain. Okay, so I'm holding the first one down at the bottom. I have it to the right, but I'm actually adhering it to the other side. So just watch as I do this. I'm kind of eyeballing this up, see how I want it, and getting them where I want them to be. I'm going to hold that down and put adhesive on the left side of the mountain, and then I am going to adhere that to the left. Only that small portion. And then I'm going to do the opposite and adhere this one to the right and then back to the left. Okay, so these are kind of going to stand up a little bit. So as I close this and open it, they are standing up. You'll see it better once I get some pictures on there. For the pictures, I have some screenshots of from the Allie Edwards December Daily account, December Daily, Prep Day, and then Hybrid Product Play. And these are 2-inch squares. So there is space around the outside because I love white space. If you don't want white space, you can make 2.5-inch squares. So that's how that is going to be. When I saw this idea, I just want to point out, and this is just me putting embellishments on the front of it. When I saw this idea, it was from my son's father has a friend who makes him handmade cards all the time. And he's a guy, so he keeps them around for so long and then he gets rid of them. Well, because he knows I scrapbook, he always brings me down boxes of these handmade greeting cards for every holiday, and I go through them. And this is where I get some of these ideas from because she is very crafty and creative. I don't even know who she is, but what I do know is that she makes great cards. Okay, so I am putting some ribbon around this. She used paper as a like a belly band, but I am using ribbon to hold this closed. So a thicker piece of ribbon, I am putting some score tape on it and lining it up where I want this to lay on top of the Feliz Navidad. And I am just taking a magnet and I'm going to put a magnet on top of that score tape. So right in the middle, I'm going to put that magnet. And then I am going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere this, making sure I'm careful, to the back of the circle. Okay, and then pushing that down and adding a little bit of score tape to make sure the ribbon is adhered completely to the whatever part of the ribbon is on the back is adhered to the back. That's what I mean to say. All right, so I'm going to pull this around, and again, I want it to close, so I have to put another magnet on this here, right here, feeling where the magnet is, knowing that's where it's going to be. And I think here I mark it with a marker. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure I did. Yeah, there you go. So I mark where the magnet goes with the marker, and that's where I know I need to put the magnet on this other side of the ribbon. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing here, adding score tape, putting the magnet back down to hold it in place. And I will add, I think, 3 pieces of score tape, and that will help me to keep this magnet in place as well. Okay, so peeling off the backing. Then I have to make sure that I put the right side of the magnet down. I hope that I did. And I think I took it off and I had to check. Yeah, there we go. So I put it there and I knew that's the side that's going to connect with the other magnet. So there's a certain way you have to put that down. You have to make sure you check that. And then I'll just fold this over to cover that magnet and try to get it straight and push it down really nicely. And let's check and see if that works. And it looks like it's going to. But then I decide that I want to adhere the ribbon to the back of this little booklet. So I'll cut off that edge after the part where I put the score tape on. And then I will see where do I want this, because I'm going to put more score tape on the ribbon so that I can put this little booklet on top of the ribbon, and the ribbon will stay on there. So I marked it, right? I marked how thick or how long that score tape needs to be. And then I will trim it and I will fill that entire space between the 2 marks with score tape from top to bottom. So I do the top, I do the bottom, and then I pulled out, I think, my 1/4 inch, because this is 1/2 inch score tape. I think I then pulled out the 1/4 inch because I decided I also want to have some adhesion in the middle. So this is the 1/4 inch score tape that will fit perfectly between those 2. And then this is going to adhere to the back of my little booklet. And again, trying to make sure because once it gets on there, it's not going to move up and down like that. So I think I have it straight. I think I mark in my brain. I should have marked it with a pen or something, or a pencil. But in my brain, I think I know where I want this to be placed. But I end up placing it too low on the back, and I wasn't happy with it. So I had to very carefully pull it off, very carefully, lay it back down, and then I did it this way. I put the circle on the front where I wanted it, wrapped the ribbon around, and then pressed it onto the back. And then this is exactly where I wanted it, and that is it. That's how it's going to be placed inside of my little pocket. So yeah, it's going to be a full pocket. That's fine. Not bothered by that. And here I decide, because I changed my mind. Remember I said I changed my mind. I didn't want it to just be about Ali Edwards' brand. I wanted it to be about scrapbooking. So I find a plus sign, add a plus sign, and then there you go. putting everything in there. So here we are in my album. This is the original blank slate, right? This is what I did to start out with as a foundation page. And again, fun pocket with transparency so you can see through it, which makes me really happy. And then this is how it looks with all of the stuff in it, right? This is what it looks like filled. I'm trying to think. I know I did make some changes. So as I'm going through these, I'll try to figure out what changes I made. I already had the 5 on there, I believe. I think I did. But again, another one of those awesome red 5s, red numbers from the Advent calendar. And then let's take a look and see what some of these tags look like. So here are the tags. Big Picture Class, Allie Edwards Design. I think I took a line stamp and I put lines underneath the letters. I just felt like it needed something below. And then I put little stars above. So again, attention to details, just adding little details here and there. The details I added on the back side because there were photos. If you remember, it's just 2 square photos on each tag. Is I got one of my border punches with the scallop because I wanted to add some scallops in, and I did some borders with the scallop punch, and I put one of them above each of the photos. So that kind of, it made it a little bit more colorful. It was very bland and it bothered me. All right, so let's go on then to the December story card. Again, nothing on the back of that, just that's like the general story, right? That's like the main journaling for this particular day. And then over there, I just love, 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 love those letter stamps. But you will see there that I also stamped lines beneath the words Instagram, Etsy, and YouTube because there was a little bit too much space. But I did those in Pendleton ink. And then I added a little star to each of those as well. So again, love adding little details after I'm done. I just think it's so fun. What do we have next? Oh, this is the back side. I am so thrilled with how this turned out. I am so thrilled with how my silhouette cut these photos out with that scalloped edge. It worked out perfectly and they fit perfectly in the spot where the white space was. And you can still see it's not gold because it's not foiled, but you can still see that outline. I love that outline and I wanted that to be there. So that's what I did. And then here is my little booklet. So this is what it looks like when you first pull it out of the pocket. Again, this is kind of like, I don't know, little accordion, little booklet. It's just a fun place to put some photos, right? A fun place to add photos. It probably could be a page standing on its own as well if you did the dimensions correctly. That would be super fun too. But yeah, so this is what it looks like when you pull it out. And then when you open it up, or you pull the belly band open, whatever they're calling it, I don't really know. But that's what it reminds me of. You will see that you can then see the Feliz Navidad. And that is what I wanted. It is adhered on there with rolling adhesive. You cannot see through it. So that was perfect. And I didn't add anything else to that. I just left that as is. And then this last picture is kind of like a little bit of an angled picture to show you how those 3 2.5-inch squares kind of stand up when you open it. So, and you will also see here that I added that scalloped border to the tops of each of these photos too. Again, felt like it was too white. You don't have to have a white inside for something like this. You could totally do the inside with patterned paper. You would just have to put 2 pieces of patterned paper back to back before you actually did the scoring and the folding. But again, I just left it white and added the photos, added a little bit of pizzazz with the scallop, and then a couple of stars. So that's it, guys. I had so much fun with this. I really, really did. And I am just excited that you were here to watch and to share this with me. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. And hopefully we will see you guys in the next video.